Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely possible scene. This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to what is, of course, your weekly Monday madness. It is Premier Sim Gaming Leagues. This is PS F1. And it is season number 40. The big 4-0. We're back for round number 2 of the campaign. Second race on F1 25. Last week was very interesting. We learned a lot about the new game mechanics on this brand new EA Sports Codemasters F1 game. I think this one could be very, very interesting as well. It is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Potential for quite a lot of action. 17 drivers is the number we are currently looking at. Maybe potential for a couple more to just skate their way in the next 15 minutes or so. But we are very much looking forward to it. Alex Lofer, the victor last time around, but unlike 7 days ago, he will not be taking the checker flag first because he is not here. An opportunity perhaps for somebody to rise to the occasion. Before we get started, the virtual commentary box, Comms Corner as it's known in PSGL, for this evening is myself, Tom, and alongside me is my good friend Logan. How are you doing, Logan?
I'm doing fantastic tonight. Great to be back in the commentary box. Unfortunately, I have demoted myself to reserve duty for the season because of let's just say personal stuff getting in the way, but hope to get as many races as possible with you, sir. It's great to be back with you in the commentary box. And as you can see, yes, I am holding my laptop. I just thought it would be better instead of using my actual desktop computer, so personal note there. But yes, the second race of the season, the Jeddah Corniche circuit, a circuit we have quite the history of commentating on together.
Yes, I think we've done it twice together on lower tiers. Yes. I think we did tier 3 once, we did tier 2 halfway through F1 24. Really exciting races, really good action. Then we got to lap 25 and all hell broke loose. It hit the fan, as one could say. Both times it was almost like deja vu. We were watching a replay of what happened before into the final corner. It was about 7 cars abreast into the braking zone. And then pretty much all of them ended up on top of each other. We've had 2 massive collisions between the leading group of cars, however big it is, on the last lap of the race. And somebody from either the middle or the second half of that leading group has come through to win the Grand Prix. And there have been some very unhappy faces from some of the perennial contenders to what was the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix throne. Do you think we're going to see something similar here today, Logan?
Well, for the sake of integrity, I hope not. I hope it's a nice, clean race, as it should be on all occasions. The last time I've been commentating, I've seen, unfortunately, the contrary. But this time, hoping to see that everything goes as it should.
And we should talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we saw last week. Obviously, the Austrian Grand Prix, it's almost known as a glorified go-kart track, effectively, with the way that you can race and race really hard. But we saw the effects of, A, the dirty air that's been brought in for this game, massively increased the dirty air. It's a lot harder to overtake. And we also saw the effects of the increased tyre temperatures and engine temperatures as well. A lot more management that goes on. Now, Austria isn't a street circuit. It's a traditional racing circuit. You can push very hard. Saudi Arabia, he said Singapore. This is a circuit where you would imagine the drivers are going to have to do a lot of managing. Those front tyres, especially if you're on the softs, they're going to get very, very toasty. And if they're following in a big DRS train, the engine temperatures are going to skyrocket as well. So how much management, Logan, are you expecting the drivers to have to carry out through this race? And how much of an impact do you think it will have on the racing itself?
A lot, and as you see in the last game, of course, there is quite a lot of dirty air, and that resulted in a lot of passing, especially into the final few laps, and that may have been the contribution to the chaos that we saw in the previous 2 races here that me and TW done together. I believe it was an F2 though, not F1, of course, completely different gravy now when you're at the top of the heap. But yes, I think the management is going to play a lot into this race, and I think they're going to have to be very careful of how they strategize this race, even if, especially at a track like Saudi Arabia, which demands pretty much pinpoint perfection in the corners if you're to get the fastest laps possible.
Let's just have a quick look at the calendar. Obviously, we've got 12 races across the span of 14 weeks, taking us to the very start of October. It feels like an absolute age away, but I can tell you this for free. It will go very, very quickly. Red Bull Ring last week. This week we're in Jeddah, and then next week we go to the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That should be an absolute classic, I'm sure. Then we have our first of 2 break weeks before we go Imola, Silverstone, Hungary and Bahrain back to back to back to back. Then we have another rest week, and then the final stretch of 5 races, some classics in there. Kota, round number 8. Then we go to Suzuka in Japan, Las Vegas, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and then Mexico City to round out season number 40. Obviously, we didn't speak last week, Logan, about the calendar. You weren't here alongside me, of course. That is going to be the main reason.
Yeah.
What circuits on the calendar are you most looking forward to? What circuits do you think could provide the best racing action, the best drama for what is shaping up to be quite an interesting championship, with last week's winner not here this week?
I wish they put reserve tracks in the calendar for fun, but I can see that got it on my screen here. Vegas is there. Vegas was pretty cool last time we went there. Texas is there. Imola, which is getting pulled off the calendar next Formula 1 real season. We'll be sad to see it go. So probably, unless what they did with France, might be the last time we ever race at Imola for the foreseeable future. It's interesting they've put Mexico as the final race of the season. Usually that'd be Brazil, but maybe they wanted a bit of a change for this season.
100%. Brilliant tracks in there, a lot of classics and a lot that induce some very good racing action. We've tried to put together a last week's result graphic. It is, slightly jumbled up and slightly difficult to get your head around, but it does show all of the key information, so we're going to go through that just now. Alex Lofer taking pole position, our last gasp effort right at the end of the qualifying session. He went on to win the race. You can see Finlay started from second, but he actually had quite a few wheel issues. That was not ideal at all when he came home. A slightly disgruntled position number 12. Oscar in the McLaren, and then Owen rounding out our top 3 finishers. No point for fastest lap this season, but there is a point for pole position that the drivers will pick up, and of course Alex Lofer getting that extra one to take him to 17 after round number 1. Armate, the reigning champion, coming home in a slightly quiet 4th. Started down in 8th, but managed to battle his way through some of the traffic. Azimenzo Sabaton, Brando Francesco Largo, Marius Formula, and Nico Sos rounding out our point scorers. With Alex Lofer not here this week, Logan, it presents quite the opportunity for somebody that finished in that pack just behind the Red Bull Racing driver to try and emerge from that group and really take a big step towards leading the championship come the end of our Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Yes, it's pretty much an open field with the disappearance of Alex Lofer. We'd probably see maybe some of the drivers that didn't score. Hazara, who did not start. Is Hazara here tonight? I don't think he is. Oh, we're about to get started, by the way.
We are. We have got the green ticks and the countdown clock just coming down. Just to inform everybody, we will go through the attendance, or at least the drivers that have signified they're going to be here. Finlay, Laffiti, Oscar Lawrence, Dirk Rydal, Volakongan, Marius Formula, Brando Yasisaki, Tony Richet, Azam Owen, and then our reserves Zinedine and Ran Bakar, who were both here last week, as was Nika Source and then Kazil. So 4 reserves that we had last week, once again making their mark. The timer is ticked down, so we are going to be very shortly getting into our 18-minute qualifying session. Very excited for it, Logan.
Yes, indeed, as I've got a voice chat suspended message on my screen. Just to let you know, I've got like 3 screens on here. If I rotate around my chair, you've got my my iMac, and then if you turn around here,
give us a
you've
twirl.
got my TV. Yes, that's what I can do. I feel like Joe 90. Anyway, enough shenanigans. We are just about to get started here. That's the Jeddah Corniche circuit in Saudi Arabia, of course. Saudi Arabia, home of a lot of things now. WWE, Crown Jewel, Cristiano Ronaldo at Al Nassr, Neymar, and oh, here we go. Well, it was Neymar, but anyway, I think he's gone back. So it's only got 16 drivers in the session. Must not be many fans of this track. After all, it has been quite the test in recent years.
It is not the easiest of circuits to try and navigate your way around, but we do have 16 of our 20 drivers in the lobby. Hopefully we do get a couple more. We had 17 that signed up, so somebody is clearly late, which is not ideal at all. If we can name and shame, we will try to do so. Who's going to be the first out onto the circuit? I'm trying to see. I think there is a Scarlet Ferrari just going down. Is it Brando? It is Brando exiting the pit lane first. Getting 3 runs in here is not that difficult. Obviously, you've got the soft compound tyres, but unlike what we had at the end of F1 24, we will not be resetting between qualifying and the race. If you remember back to the end of the last game cycle, collisions were turned off to try and stop anybody getting any advantages from slipstream, and also to reduce the opportunity for drivers to impede one another intentionally or not. More often than not, unintentionally, but sometimes there can be a few shaky things going on, so there won't be that reset. That means they don't get all of their soft compound tyres back either. So if there is a late race safety car, if the soft tyres are the ones that you want to start the Grand Prix on, you're going to have to be very careful to keep a couple potentially in your back pocket.
And we see that Zinedine Hadjad has actually retired from the session. I do think he has a qualifying ban, correct me if I'm wrong. But,
I will not correct you.
Because it is true.
Yes.
Good. So we have 15 drivers now, and I believe the first driver that will be Brando in the Ferrari, coming around that tricky chicane, which I believe was modified a few years back, and out he comes to start what will be his first lap, the final DRS zone before the, well, to be fair, the actual final DRS zone. There's DRS zone, a hairpin, and then another DRS zone. So controversially, you could go past and then you could get past back again. But here we go. He's going the outside for maximum speed down to the first corner, which is one of those interesting ones. It reminds me of Oschersleben Turn 1 to John Cleland's Rampage. And out he comes before you go swiftly into the next sequence of turns. Be careful not to hit that inside wall. It will ruin your race or lap. You've got to be careful of the application of the brakes in this next section for making sure you do not go over the track limits, because that's pretty easy to do. Then it's this large hairpin, 180, well, probably more than 180 degrees you're doing going around. Or we go to another chicane, but this time it's much faster. Careful not to go over the rumble strip as usual. Then you can apply the DRS. You see a lot of the curbs in this track are on the inside of the track, like the white line, before then coming to this other chicane, which again is pretty fast, but we always mention those track limits. I cannot emphasize it enough. Then the DRS applied for this final segment before the hairpin into our final corner, and then making a long dash to the line, making sure you don't hit the wall like Max Verstappen once did, and then cross the line to a set of 126.357.
It is a decent start. Marius Formula jumping ahead by 100th of a second. We are expecting the times to be pretty closely contested. Finlay started on the front row 1 week ago, has matched Brando through the first set to 31.7. We're expecting to see the Haas towards the sharp end. Lawrence, though, lowers the benchmark by a quarter of a second, 26.1. That is a very speedy lap indeed for the Silver Arrows. Still watching with the Haas of Finlay, that DRS lap wide open as you come down into the corner there. We've seen a number of drivers crash in real life through 22, 23 and 24. Oscar up to second place in the Papaya McLaren car. A little bit of traffic, but duly getting out of the way. His Ferrari engined counterpart, I believe that is Brando, just making way for the Haas of Finlay and charging down towards that final corner. Got to be very precise in here. Like you said, Max Verstappen clipping that outside wall, well, thumping the outside wall a few years ago back in 2021. Now you're pulling gears all the way up to the line. What is this going to be for Finlay? First into the 25s? No, 26.3. Still a quarter of a second covering the 5 times we have thus far.
So ignore the yellow flags that are drivers going slow to let other cars through. Unfortunately, it has not been sorted out. Am I coming through for you, by the way?
Yes, you are coming through. Volakonga's just jumped up into second, by the way, in the other McLaren, over the line with Azam, who's done a 26.6. That is considerably off the pace. Yasisaki a little bit down as well, 26.5 for the pair of them in 8th and 9th, respectively. And if they keep up that kind of pace, they'll be battling for the wooden spoon. Oh, Owen! First driver into the 25. Sorry to cut across. There by 5 milliseconds. 25.995. That's the gauntlet thrown down to a couple of drivers. That is quite the statement early on in the session. Usually you have to give yourself a little bit of time just to get warmed up. But no, Owen straight in there, slapping that lap time on the board.
Absolutely, and that's what you want to see. As I Fury put my glasses on to see what's going on. Lawrence with a 1:16. It looks brilliant, but the 1:25.995. But looking at it, because it's another second, it looks a whole lot ahead. It's only about 0.12 seconds ahead. We've still got 4 drivers, excluding Zinedine, that have not set a lap. Tony Ritchie's coming out the final corner now in the Visa RB, but I do believe he's abandoned his lap, yes. Kazizel also, being a long-term competitor in this sport, has been around since the early 2020s, maybe before, because that's when I pretty much started here. Kazizel in the Haas, the black and white Haas it is now, with the number 11, Sergio Perez, moving to Haas perhaps? Coming out of the final corner and across the line, it is going to be 7th place, just behind his teammate by 0.024.
Yeah, and there Lafferty as well. Some support for Lafferty in the chat. Jumping up into 5th position, just rounding out our top 5 on the 26.3. Nathan Richards, lovely to see the legend Nathan Richards in the chat. Round 2 and 16 drivers. It is not ideal at all, is it? Hopefully we do get some more. We had 17 sign-ups, so somebody is skiving off, and we're not very happy about it. 13 drivers getting a time on the board at the first time of asking. Obviously, Zinedine, with that quali ban, will be starting from the back. Also has a 10-second post-race penalty to serve in this event as well. So scoring points is going to be a long shot for that Mercedes driver. Tony Richet and Dirk both making mistakes respectively. You just saw it from Kazizel there as well. He's obviously on and in lap, but just Tony hawking over the curves. And in the first sector in particular, you have to be so accurate with the placement of your car, because those curves can be very, very deadly. Through the switchback of turns 1 or 2, got to be careful of the sausage curb on the inside of 1 and the inside of 2. Then the exit of turn 4 as well. They can just suck you in and absolutely ruin not only your lap time, but your underbody and your floor as well.
Yes, and you don't want to be doing that in the qualifying session, because you will not be able to set those very, very fast times. Yes, I do believe no one is on a lap at this moment. 6 people on an out lap, 2 people on the in lap, the remainder in the pits. I'll make that 7 now. Lawrence is coming out to start his lap, well, his out lap. We'll be waiting quite a while. You don't like lulls in the action, you're a commentator. You run out of things to talk about.
A lot of filling going on, I think. I think we've also got Dirk and Tony Richet. Potentially, Dirk and Lafferty just tripping over each other a little bit through the final corner as the RB peels off into the pits, and Dirk has a second attempt at trying to get a time on the board. One Ferrari currently residing in P10 on the 26.3. We've got 9.5 minutes to go, so we're already at the halfway stage. It's gone very, very quickly indeed. Fairly decent run through the switchback of turns 1, 2 and 3. Alpine on the left-hand side getting out of the way, and into 4. Going to be so careful. Avoid the wall. Don't avoid the curb on the outside, exceeding track limits, and once again Dirk failing to get a competitive time on the board. And this just sets a precedent, doesn't it? It leaves you with a lot of extra added weight on your shoulders come the end of the session, where you're usually pushing that little bit harder to get that bonsai lap to try and get you those extra couple of tenths and those extra couple of positions on the starting grid. Tony Richet has also just started a lap time along with Brando and Mario's formula. I think Dirk just getting out of the way of a couple of cars in the middle sector.
So Oscar about to start his next lap, and Finley is also in the process of setting one as well. We should be looking at who is close to the line. Let's see. Dirk has gone invalid. Tony Ritchie is on the back half of this track. What have you saw?
I was just on board with Tony Richet and almost brushing the barriers coming through turns 16 and 17. More switchback corners, more high-speed chicanes, and he gets very wobbly on the entry to turn number 22, almost getting crossed up and just having to lift off ever so slightly to stop the car pirouetting and trailing down the barriers and ending his qualifying session slightly early, coming up towards the final corner. There's more traffic in C there. I think that's a Williams. There's an Aston Martin getting out of the way. There is a Williams just in front, so he's going to get a lovely slipstream coming out of turn number 27. The trade-off will be a little bit of dirty air on the entry to the final corner, but first time of the session for Tony Richet, and it pops him. Car number 2 now residing in position number 2, 26 flat immediately though, replaced by Mario's formula, who makes it an Enstone Alpine 1-2, 25-9, 26 flat.
Well, some things you don't see every day. An Alpine 1-2 nearly happened at the Brazilian Grand Prix last year. Fun fact.
It did. Converted that though to a 2-3 as Mario's Formula going wide. Oscar lowers the benchmark ever so slightly though. 6 milliseconds, as you say. It's Papaya McLaren on top. That's a little bit more like what we've been seeing in real life. And Oscar looking to go one better than he did 7 days ago as he drifts coming out of turn number 2. Finished second, was actually third on the road because there was a penalty for Renzo Sabaton post-race who crossed the line in position 2 but got bumped down into P8. And now it's Lawrence who got a decent benchmark, 26.1. He's now into the 25.9s. Look how congested it is. The top 3 covered by 15 milliseconds. This is why we'll have PSGL, PSF1, everybody. The gaps are so tight, even around one of the most tricky and most technical circuits on the F1 calendar. These drivers still almost perfectly matched. 9 milliseconds first to second, a further 6 back to P3.
Razor thin margins, sir. Razor thin margins. As we are running out of time. How much time? There's so many yellow flags I can't see.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see. Azam now pops up into P4 and the Williams 26 flat. Yasser Saki is the latest to dip his toes into the 25.9s. Owen does it as well with an improvement in the Alpine. Was provisionally on pole a few moments ago. Got bumped down a couple of places. Now back up onto the front row, but 9 milliseconds shy of Yasser Saki's time. The green machine of the Aston Martin. These times are coming in thick and fast. The top 7 covered by just over a 1/10 of a second. That is unbelievable scenes, everybody. Finlay hasn't managed to get a second time on the board. In fact, invalidating in the Haas because he's still down there in 13th going again, but only up by 13 milliseconds through the first sector and 33 hundredths through the second set. So this doesn't look like it's going to be a big improvement for the driver that is in unlucky position number 13. And Nikosaurus as well finding time, but staying down outside the top 10 in P12, 26.3. From the times we're seeing, you've almost got to be in the 25s to guarantee yourself a decent starting position.
Yes, that is pretty much the case here. Look how close these times are. The top 6 are within a 1/10. Tony is within 1.5 tenths. Volokongan within just about 2/10. I still can't see how much time's left. I'd make it about 3 minutes left. I don't know what's going on. By the way, I should notice no kick Saubers tonight, which is pretty sad considering their recent form. Oh man.
Well, I mean, some podium, wasn't it? From Nico Hulkenberg, finally getting it. 239 starts, I think it was. That was the magic number that he finally broke the curse, if you will, and got over the line. The yellow flag should be coming in soon, so we will eventually get the reveal of how much time we've got left in the session. I think you're right, maybe around 4 or 5 minutes to go. We had it come up very briefly that we had 9.5 minutes. Yes, 4.5 minutes left in the session, so that's going to be one run, you would imagine, for everybody. They want to save a set of soft compound tyres, you would imagine, in case there's a late race safety car, in case they want to use this red stripe rubber as part of their strategy as well. And that just changes the dynamic a little bit from the end of F1 24, where you could burn through all of those soft compound tyres through qualifying and then get them returned to you as you returned, or as you progress, into the main race.
So, 4 minutes to go. Kazizo is on the track. And, oh, here we go. The yellow flags are out again.
There's only one car on the track. Who are the yellows for?
They just like the colour yellow. They're big fans of The Simpsons, I think. Or Coldplay, who were at the Club World Cup last night, which nobody watched, I think.
No, they did not watch it. Ferrari, though, in 14th and 15th, they'll be hoping that somebody can try and fix them. Nice little Coldplay joke there, because it's not all Viva La Vida for them in this qualifying session. Slowest and second slowest. Or, well, slowest, and one of them hasn't got a time on the board. Dirk's had a couple of goes at it, but as yet has failed to keep it within the white lines and get that time on the board. So they're going to have to go again. Brando scored points 7 days ago, P7 for that lead Ferrari car. Dirk had a little bit of a tricky one, involved in a couple of scrapes and a couple of skirmishes. Didn't bring home any points for the team, I do believe. 3 minutes to go. We are getting towards the moment where people are going to be jumping out onto the circuit. In real life, they would have the AWS graphic that says what the predicted pole time would be. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, Logan. What time do you think will guarantee somebody pole position?
125.8XX, I think.
Can we fill in the X's, maybe?
125.875, maybe.
Okay. Well, if that is the number, then you should probably get on the lottery, mate, because that will be absolutely unbelievable. Marius Formula and Tony Richet, the first two drivers to emerge from pit road. They're going to have a nice bit of space as long as that RB does back up a little bit, which I would expect him to do. And now the brigade starting to come up. You can see the two McLarens and Mercedes coming out of the pit lane as well as everybody tries to join the party.
Yes, so we have all the drivers coming out. You got to get out by, I'd say, 2 minutes left to guarantee yourself getting a time. I still love that. Look at the V carb. It just looks way much better than the Red Bull, which, no offense, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But let's be fair, it's much more striking, the V carb. Which might see changes next year because of the recent news, and of course the team up with Ford next year. And where's the chrome on the McLarens? It's gone. It's not there.
Disappointing, isn't it? We do love the chrome. I actually really like the livery. I still prefer, I would say,
Permanent.
the 2023 chrome papaya livery, but it was a nice one. I have to.
Yeah, I
be
saw it. I
honest.
was at the British Grand Prix that year, and
Wow.
last year as well. Not this year. I'm in Italy this year, so I missed out on the Lando stand. But as a Ferrari fan, I don't really mind.
Lewis was very close to that first podium of the season, but didn't quite get it. We're getting ready to go though. 1 minute and 16 on the clock, and it's Mario's Formula. You've got the yellow flags flying for drivers trying to make space. Mario's Formula really committed into the braking zone of turn number 1, cranking on the steering lock as he tries desperately to get the front end to bite and give him the rotation, charging towards turn number 4 now. How accurate, how precise can you be? Couple of attempts at it, and then gets a little bit unstable and wobbly over the curves. Through the sweeps of 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 we come up to now, avoiding Tony Hawking on those curbs. Just one more to negotiate and he gets through it nicely. What's the delta as we come up to end the first sector? Has he found time? No, he's down by 1/10 of a second. He needs to try and find something in this middle sector as he flies through turn number 13.
So through the final corners he is coming. And how much time is left? I don't think some of these drivers are going to make it.
They're really backing up to some tune. Those drivers at the back have got to be very, very careful. They've also got to be careful that they don't go too slowly, that they impede the likes of Marius Formula and Tony Richet, who came out quite early. Has Marius Formula found any time? It's a purple middle sector, but still down by 600ths of a second. He's got to get in the 25s. You would imagine if he's going to start at least in the top 5, maybe even in the top 10. We've got 8 seconds to go. I think everybody is just about going to get round. You can see the Red Bull charging towards the line now.
Yeah, he's got it. It's fine. So time's now up in the session. These are the final laps, and it will start with Marios in the Alpine, and I think he hasn't backed it. It looks like it with him crossing the line, but he's doing that to get in. It's only 6th place.
Tony Richet!
At the top! Oh my goodness, he's completely blown my expectations. 125.818, and that'll take some beating.
Oscar's invalidated, so that's one Papaya McLaren that's not going to be challenging. We go on board with Volakongan, who's negotiating the final corner. He's down by 0.5 as Tony Richet stolen a march on everybody as they were tripping over themselves, trying to find some track space. He went out early, no improvement in position for Volakongan. Found a 0.25, but stays in position number 8. We return to the drivers that were at the sharp end. Lawrence has been on provisional pole twice so far in this session. 26.1, 25.9. Can he find more time? It's a 25.9. He jumps up onto the front row. Yasusaki's down by 2 tenths. He's under severe pressure and he's the final corner of his life. He doesn't get it, still down by 1/10. Owen, though, is absolutely flying, tracking beautifully through the final corner. He's got 2 tenths in his back pocket. The Alpine charging towards the line, pulling gears as a 25.7. He puts 0.5 on the head top of Tony Richet.
And I don't think we'll be seeing any beating, bar a complete miracle from any of the other drivers. Dirt goes into 6th, preventing a bottom row of the Ferraris. Well, it can't be anyway because, of course, Zindine did not set a lap. Azam goes 5th. Zizzo into the top 10 just about. And Brando's lost his wing.
Yes.
And will be starting P15 because there's no way he was going to make a lap without that front wing.
And I don't remember seeing any local yellows, so maybe he's just tapped the barrier and the whole front wing's been taken off. That's a very interesting one. But it's Tony in 2nd and Owen in 1st. 0.5 separates them, and they're a little bit detached from everybody else. A further 10th back to Lawrence, Yasisaki, Azam, Oscar Dirk, Marius Formula, Lafferty, and Kazizel rounding out your top 10. Volakongan just outside. Finlay didn't get as good a lap time as he did 1 week ago in Austria. He'll go from 12th. Rydal Nikosaurus. Brando in 15th, the slowest of the runners. And Zinedine Hadjad didn't set a time courtesy of that qualifying ban, and he will go from P16. That was a very interesting session, though, wasn't it? Flip-flopping all the time. It turns out you did have to be in the 25.7s to get pole position. That was some lap from Owen, wasn't it? Right at the death when he needed it.
He's been fantastic on his qualifying laps through these past few seasons, and today was no different. So we are under the lights here in the night sky of the Jeddah Corniche course, built allegedly a street circuit, but I don't think it's being used for anything but motor racing, so I would assume it's somewhat permanent, because I don't see any cars going through it. There's no road markings or everything. I think it's called a street circuit because of, like, it's dynamic.
Yeah.
Even though it's really fast. It's like if Silverstone and Monza were street circuits. Kind of like Grand Valley Speedway and Gran Turismo 7.
Yeah, we don't usually see...
Grand Valley Highway now.
We don't see the footage like we do in somewhere, say, Albert Park or in Monaco, where we see just the normal traffic making their way down the circuit. So I think it is probably a permanent venue, especially with some of the architecture that's gone into building up this Jeddah Corniche circuit, which will be dropping off the calendar, wouldn't it? Because it's going to be replaced by that place in Riyadh, I think it is. I can't quite remember that absolutely bonkers circuit. That's where it is, not Riyadh.
Qadiyah, it will be... I highly doubt it's going to be 7 kilometers plus. There's an unofficial rule. The maximum is 7 kilometers. Spa just scrapes above it, but they obviously give an exception because it's Spa, and of course Monaco. We don't need to mention that. It's not even 305 kilometers. But yeah, it's under the night sky. So tonight we're going to be seeing who is going to be. Well, I was going to make a quote here, and you'd probably guess the reference. You probably won't get it. These drivers are going to be fighting evil by moonlight and winning love by daylight. But I think you probably get the reference now if you've watched 90s anime.
I have not watched 90s anime, so
Sailor
unfortunately
Moon.
That joke is slightly wasted on me.
It's Sailor Moon. It's from Sailor Moon. That girly anime.
Interesting. Well, we wait for the drivers to sort out their tyre strategies. Fuel as well going to be important. There are a lot of corners when you can lift off, but you are at full throttle for a lot of the time. Who is going to be a star tonight? Who's going to be dancing in the moonlight? It's 5 lights. So we're racing around the Jeddah Corniche circuit. It's Tony Richet trying to charge up towards Owen into turn number 1, but the Alpine is absolutely clear as you like. I'll be comfortable down into the breaker zone, leading the way. Lawrence and Yasusaki dueling over second, third and fourth. Then we had, I think, 4 cars wide coming out of turns 1 and 2. Big battles going on as a Ferrari's almost squeezed into the barrier there. Finlay having it out with Brando, but that is a terrible one through Lawrence. He goes over the sausage curb on the outside. Through goes Tony Richet, through goes Azam as well. The Williams trying to find the space, can't quite manage it, and now battling away with the McLaren, but once again it's a mistake from Lawrence, struggling to get over these sausage curbs. Oscar sweeping around the outside. Yasusaki bogged down by that as well, pushed into the midfield. Got to deal with the Scarlet Ferrari of Durkin now, lunging it up the inside. Yasusaki thought for just one moment that he could potentially nab 5th position away from one of his better friends and rivals, Lawrence, but having to stay and bide his time in P6 for the time being. Volokonga looking to get a shift on as well.
Fighting everywhere. There was a three-way battle in the first 2 corners in the mid-pack, and I believe another couple of corners. Of course, we've had Lawrence fight off those around him in the later corners, but he's making it way through. Still Owen, Tony and Azam that will be leading the field towards the end of the first lap. Looking at the position changes, the biggest winner in that is Volokonga. He started 11th, he's now in 8th, and there's a battle here between Dirk and Volokonga, and it looks like Marius is going to get involved as well. And behind them, the 2 sister Red Bull teams are fighting for the last point position into the second lap. They go. It is Owen that's still in the lead. Is there going to be some moves into the first corner perhaps? Yes, there is. That is Ryder Dow getting risky with Marius, and he's going to try and get the 9th position there, and he has. Now he'll be fighting Volokongan for 8th.
Yeah, he's successful in doing so, and it was attack to defence very, very quickly for Marius. It was up the inside of Volokongan into the final corner. By the time he got to the braking zone of turn number 1, he was having 9th place taken off his hands by a very feisty looking rider now who's all over the curbs, hustling that Red Bull through the first sector. He's got a run on the Papaya McLaren in front. Has he just got a stranglehold, a foothold up the inside? He's brave on the brakes, but Volokongan is going to have to try and hang this out around the outside. But does he have the confidence and the traction? The answer is a very firm no, and that's a couple of places picked up from Ryder Dow in the last 30 seconds or so. Marius Formula dealt with, and now clean up the inside of Volokongan, who I think is going to continue his little scrap with Marius Formula.
Yes, but with Ryder ahead instead of behind like previously. So they're fighting for a lower spot. At the top though, with DRS enabled, Tony is going to have his first chance to take the lead. Coming down towards the final corner, turn 27, the most turns of any Formula 1 circuit in the world. And we'll see Tony Ritchie. Oh, is that a mistake for Lauren? It looked like he had lost some pace out of that corner, and that Tony is going to be licking his lips here in that helmet and thinking, oh, I might have a chance here. But he's also got Azam and Oscar to deal with behind. Here he comes. He's going to try and look on the outside. Not going to make a move just now, but he's going to try and keep himself within touching distance of Owen and possibly set up a move in the future. There's a battle behind Zizzle and Brando going side by side out of turn number 3. Now into turn 4, it's going to be Zizzle that keeps the position.
Yeah, really good scraps going. Down to turn number 1, you could just see Azam in third place hovering in the middle of the circuit, just trying to see what Tony Richet was going to do, and then he could plot his assault to try and take second place away from that RB car. And Owen has managed to put a little bit of breathing space now between himself and the driver in second. That hovering around half a second. Massive snap. I think that was Azam coming through turn number 13. He was actually lucky to keep it pointing on the straight and narrow, and that would just put his eyes on Storks ever so slightly. He's got a big flash of Papaya McLaren of Oscar right up there behind him in those rear view mirrors, and Lawrence shadowing every move that Oscar pulls. Also in the battle for third, fourth and fifth. Yasusaki's charge has cooled ever so slightly as well. You can see Lawrence is just getting closer to the back of the McLaren. That is disconnection for Nico Sauce. If you can try and get him back into the session, Logan, that would be ideal. He is down in 16th and last place, which is not ideal one jot. We're going to carry on looking at the action out in front, closing, gaining all the time as Tony Richet down to the braking zone of the final corner, turn number 27. Wasn't close enough on that occasion to make any real impressions. Going to get a second bite of the cherry with the DRS as we cut the beam, start lap number 4. This time he's tracking nicely, moving out of the hot, turbulent air as Oscar trying to cool that car, with the top 3 remaining in the same order they started the straight.
I can't seem to get Nika Sauce in right now. Owen is still in the lead, just to let you know. And I'm having problems with my PS4. It doesn't seem to want me to invite him, I'm afraid.
That is not good news. If you try and get that sorted, I'll try and man the ship whilst you get that under control. This is PS's first division. And what is Lawrence doing up in P5? He was higher than that at one point. Started, I think, in P3, that silver arrow. Potentially even on, no, it was P3 or P4, battling away with Yasuaki. They were just tripping over themselves a little bit down into turn number 1. Now we're starting to see the effects of the dirty air as well. It's very difficult to follow. We saw Oscar already pulling out of the turbulence going down to turn 1 just to cool the car and cool the engine to give himself that little bit of a heads up, a bit of an advantage over the drivers that are staying glued to the rear of their rivals in front of them. And they're just overheating the tyres, the brakes and the engine as Azam falls off the circuit through turns 22 and 23. But he's not going to be under any kind of pressure from Oscar behind, who's actually got a Mercedes to try and deal with 0.2 of a second the gap between Oscar and Lawrence. And Yasuaki just struggling to cling onto the coattails of that leading group of 5. Gap extending out to 0.75 of a second. Managed to stem the flow down into the braking zone of the final corner. But just got to be careful with Dirk hovering very menacingly in the rear view mirrors of that green machine. And there you can see Lawrence now getting out of the turbulent air, trying to get some cool air. Dirk is sending it up the inside. Can he slam the anchors on? Can he avoid making contact? There's a little bit of bumping and grinding going on between the Ferrari and the Aston Martin, but they're neck and neck as they come out of turn 3. Is Dirk going to be brave once again down into turn number 4? Well, he's going to clatter the rear of the Aston Martin into the braking zone. But all's well that ends well for Yasuaki, even though he did get that little love tap from behind. And Dirk having to sit in behind for the time being. Just made a little bit of an error there. I think he was brave on the brakes into turn number 1, but couldn't quite get the car stopped in time to complete that overtake.
Yeah, and that's probably hampered them both because Ryderdale's now on the rear of Dirk by about 0.15 seconds. And Owen's still leading the field though, but by half a second they're starting to separate even further now, and I hope this is not going to be the case because the dirty air has made it much more difficult. But you know, something seems to be missing from that, and that's all that action that used to happen. But I guess it is to make the game more realistic, as they say. And it looks like it's living up to them points. Ryderdale now starting to set up a move against Dirk for 7th place. And he will have the DRS, but then again, so will Dirk because he is within 1 second of the car ahead. And it doesn't seem to be a challenge from Roydal. That might be in the next corner though. He's got a nice grip out of that corner. And he looked like he was going to go for the position and right in touching distance. I think we could be seeing a move into turn 1. Dirk looks like he made a defensive move to scare off Roydal, and looks like it's worked. So still in 7th position is Dirk.
Yeah, just laying his cars down on the table, Dirk, in the last couple of laps. Big send down into turn number 1. And then when he saw Roydal approaching at some rate of knots behind, just moving over to the middle of the circuit, just to say, hey mate, you're not going to be doing the same thing that I tried to do to Yasser Saki. You are not going to be dive bombing me, and you're going to have to try and find a different way to get past. Nikos also don't think he's back in the session either, so 12 seconds off the back of the pack. That is not good news at all for the Williams driver that did pick up 1 single point 7 days ago in Austria. Tony Richet, 0.8 of a second off the back of Owen. Maybe that's just to cool the car and look after those front tyres in particular. Make sure the temperatures don't skyrocket and make your life a lot harder than it needs to be around this very twisty and technical street circuit, high-speed street circuit as well. It can be very, very stressful, in particular when you're racing at close quarters. We usually see here in PSGL, PSF1. Interesting line there from Roydal, maybe just getting a little bit distracted as he almost clouted the barrier on the inside. It's not quite a straight, there's quite a few kinks in it, but shouldn't really trouble you too much, and I think that's a mistake from Marius Formula down into turn number 22, and suddenly he's got a V-carb right tucked up underneath the rear. He's going to have to go defensive, you'd imagine, down into the penultimate, the final corner. In fact, there's a battle going on behind as well as Kazizel and Brando have it out with one another. Marius Formula holds firm in 10th position for the time being. Lafferty was maybe a little bit passive there, trying to get the DRS again on the run down into turn number 1. They're in a DRS train though. Marius Formula's going to have the DRS as well. He is jinking over to the middle of the circuit, having to throw the defensive shape. Can Latifi try and get the space around the outside? The answer is very much no, tripping over one another and clattering into the rear. Not once but twice. It's Finlay and then it's Zinedine. Marius Formula's race has been turned very much on his head. Damage aplenty for the drivers involved in that, and I think Lafferty probably, well, I think he probably had to back out of that once he realised the door was being slammed in his face.
Yeah, and that unfortunately has hampered Marius. It hampered Finlay and Hadjad as well. And now Hadjad is up into 14th. Finlay now in 13th. Marius now P15 right at the back, basically, with Nikos too far behind to challenge the top drivers. The closest gap, I believe, is at the front.
Yes, things just ebbing and flowing ever so slightly. Owen seems to put his foot down, and then Tony Richet responds. He's actually very close there with the helping hand of DRS, and this is the closest that they've been, but just unstable over the curbs through turn number 23. Just pushes Tony Richet back into the real turbulence and the dirty air coming out of it, and that cools the assault for the time being. With that rear wing flap opening once more, and he can stay glued as close as he possibly can to the rear wing of that Alpine car. 3-second penalty, first and most likely not the last of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, handed out to Zinedine. 0.4 of a second is the margin, now 0.5 of a second. Owen with really good run coming out of the final corner, and that's making life difficult for Tony Richet if he's going to make any real impression. Still very stable behind as well. Azam, Oscar, Lawrence, Yasisaki, Dirk Volokongan, Volokongan, and then Kazizel's the one that's been on the move up into 10th place, getting ahead of Brando and managing to avoid the kerfuffle and the scrapes and the skirmishes that occurred in turns 1 and 2.
So, it is lap number 8 of 25. A third of the race has been completed pretty much. And it's still Owen leading the pack, but we've still got, of course, the pit stops to come. We should be going medium hard for this race. The softs too short in tyre life and probably unnecessary for this Grand Prix. 18 laps, well, I beg your pardon. And still the top 3, I think top 4 remain the same at the start. And it's pretty tough to get like a good view from some of the characters because of seemingly the fog that the lights create, the floodlights that are situated every corner so that every driver sees what it is like to race, just like in daytime. And that's what it feels like when it's under the lights. It feels like, you know, you're in daytime, but everything else is nighttime. Dirk on Yasser Saki for at least 6th position, and a gap between them is 3 tenths. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be closing up anytime soon because, of course, Lawrence is ahead by 4 tenths. It's seeming like in an orderly fashion right now, but with pit stops there could be some undercutting going on, and that could change the entire pecking order of this race.
Well, speaking of pit stops, the first regulation one's being made. Into the pits comes Brando for the hard tyres. Into the pits comes Lafferty as well, probably for those white-striped hard compound tyres. Yes, indeed, that is the compound that is strapped on to that V-Cub car. They've got Nico Sosa, I still don't think he's in the session. Thankfully for Brando, he's going to be ahead of the AI car that is going to be quite slow and sluggish at this stage, but Lafferty's going to have to try and muscle their way through very, very shortly once those hard tyres have got up to temperature. Still very staccato out in front, the top 9 remaining as they were at the end of lap number 2, I think it was. It's been fairly stable out in front and right at the sharp end of the field, but still opportunities for things to change. We're not even at the halfway stage. When we do have that first round of pit stops, the only round of pit stops that we are expecting, things will just fan out ever so slightly as the undercuts, the overcuts, the different strategy calls are thrown, and then we can really see who's got the pace and clean air to try and make a late charge, A for a top 5, B for a podium, or C even for the race win.
And you know what it took to make those white striped hard tyres?
What's that?
A 7-nation army.
Way.
Sorry. Oh, here we go, pit stops. They're all diving in. And it looks like there aren't going to be any undercuts because they're just going to be negated. Oh, is there? Ryder deciding to go one longer. So it's Dirt, in fact. And they'll have to be 4 now, but will it pay off?
Ah!
Everyone's coming in. Oh, what's happened?
Oh, I thought I just panicked there because for a moment on my screen it looked like Owen was putting on the medium tyres again, which would have been quite the blunder, but it is the white striped hard compound tyres, and he doesn't have to make an extra pit stop. He's going to be spat out in between his teammate and Finlay, both of them on aging medium compound tyres. Is there going to be some team orders here? No, Owen's still balked and really tucked up underneath the rear wing of his team. He's going to be saying over the radio, get out of the way, mate. I need to try and get on with it. Tony Roche also dancing his way around the outside of Finlay, who was absolutely defenceless. Marius Formula gets out of the way very kindly, and Owen can now zoom off into the distance, but Tony Roche has managed to go with him, and that little that little pit stop window has actually pushed the top 2 away from everybody else. Azim and Oscar now caught up underneath the rear wing of Finlay as Marius Formula's dropped back.
Yeah, Marius is losing a lot of positions, and Finlay is about to as well. Azim's just passed him. Should be Oscar as well, and nearly runs right into the back of him. Lawrence is going to be passing Marius. Yeah, I don't think staying out is helping, and I think Owen and the pack behind him are going to retake the lead.
Oh, I think Azim was slightly wide there into turn number 22. Maybe a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment. Oscar, though, not close enough to capitalise as yet, but with no DRS for the Williams, he is going to be the prime definition of a sitting duck. Clean around the outside goes Oscar as he roars up into position number 7. Finlay is still ahead of Lawrence. That is not good news for the 3rd Mercedes engine driver in the top 10, in the lower reach of the top 10, from 7th down to 10th, with the McLaren and the Williams up in front. He's going to drop out of the DRS range of that group in front of him, and pulling out as well. He can't make the move stick, and that is not good news for Lawrence. He's just all the time being pushed further and further away from the dueling Oscar and Azim, who in turn have been pushed away from Owen and Tony Roche.
Yeah, and let's see if they're going to... Well, actually... yes.
Oh, into the barrier! Lawrence, I think, got squeezed into the wall there by Yasisaki. I just heard the clout and the bang as the Mercedes was rubbing up against the wall. They were still caught up behind Finlay, who stayed out once again on those 10-lap-old medium tyres. Lawrence has now got a 10-second penalty for corner cutting and gaining a position. We didn't quite catch what went on, but clearly the dark skies looming over the heads of the Mercedes driver, because that is not good news at all. 10-second penalty going to kill any chances of a decent result unless there's a late race safety car. But it's Yasisaki and Lawrence, not for the first time in this Grand Prix, just coming to blows. They did it on the opening lap, costing each other time. They've done it again, I believe, there, and Lawrence has come out second best.
Yeah, absolutely. We should be looking at the top 4. They're going to be pitting Dirk Rednow and Volkonga, and they'll be well behind because they have got absolutely, 8 seconds a lead. 8 seconds for Dirk, 9 seconds, and that will mean, I'm sure, Owen is going to retake the lead of this race, and that is, of course, the case. So, looks like where is Ryderdal and Kazizo and the gang going to come out? That is the question as the hard tyres come on, but they're going to have the fresher set, so but I'm not sure if it will be much difference though, because everyone started on the medium tyre. And everyone went to hard tyre as Lawrence and Lando were fighting for 6th position. Lawrence will take it, but he does have that second penalty lingering over him. So does Hadjaj for speeding in the pit lane, and he's going to go to the back. Kazizzle's already got a penalty. Must have cut the corner, so looks like I thought it was like a pit stop glitch, but it is not. The Ryder Dahl and the gang have come out 9 seconds behind Owen. So long way to go. We've got Laffiti ahead, who has pit already. But the top 4 are separated by the rest of the field. I think there's like a mishmash behind a couple of 2-car battles, but it was mainly the top 4 right now who are biting for the win.
Well, I wonder if Owen and Tony Roche have potentially missed a trick here, because Tony Roche's just been sitting in behind the Alpine, but what's that allowed is Asman Oscar to DRS behind, and now they've cruised up to the back of this duo, made it a quartet, like you say, battling for the lead of the Grand Prix. If we don't have a safety car, it's going to be an exclusive battle, because they've got 4 seconds in their back pocket over Yasir Saki, Lawrence, who of course has that 10-second penalty, and Brando as well in the second chasing peloton behind us. They are actually going to trade places. Will they manage to keep their hands off one another? Yes, they do. Lawrence goes clean up the inside of Yasir Saki. Doesn't even need the braking zone of turn number 1, and that is position number 5, albeit with that 10-second penalty that is really going to hurt the chances of Lawrence to pick up any points, you would imagine, in this Grand Prix. Going to drop down to P12, you would think. I think because this has only got a 3-second time penalty, so that is not good news at all. What is that we are going to have a 4-car scrap rather than just 2 drivers battling it out for the win, the second 50% of this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And it looks like Asman Oscar maybe just have a slight pace advantage over Owen and Tony Roche. Now, the famous saying goes, it's one thing to try and catch a couple of cars, it's another thing to try and overtake them. They're going to find that, you would imagine, slightly challenging.
Yes, absolutely, considering it is Jeddah, and the track is as tight as it can possibly be. But these drivers are still battling. We've got the 8th place battle between Laffiti, who pitted early, Ryder Dahl and Dirk, who pitted late, and Volkongen tucked up behind 2 for no points as it stands. But of course, you will get 1 point into 10th. I think Laffiti is going to be feeling the heat right now. Ryder Dahl is almost there, and Laffiti will have no DRS, so it's going to be sitting there like a sitting duck. And Furi goes on the outside, and he will take the position. Is Dirk going to take it as well? He's not going to get there in time, but I am sure with the DRS zone activated. No, I think actually Laffiti's going to get the DRS back. Yes, he is going to get it back. And Ryder Dahl will not have any DRS, as there's a fight there. Looks like that Yasir Saki's got ahead. Is Laffiti going to get past? No, not quite. Dirk not close enough in the chicane.
Well, that was nearly rinse and repeat of what happened between Laffiti and Mario's Formula. The shoe was ever so slightly on the other foot, though, because Laffiti was the one doing the defending. Dirk trying to hang it around the outside, realised the door was going to be closed and backing out of it just before they made contact at the apex of turn number 2. And the pair of them live to fight another day. Still 4 seconds the gap between 4th place Oscar and 5th place Yasir Saki. Saki and Lawrence working together to try and DRS share their way up to the leading group of 4. But what was a battle between 3 cars is now between 7, if my maths doesn't fail me, because Ryder Dahl's on the scene, Laffiti, Dirk and Volkongen also all on the scene as well. So that's going to be very interesting as we see Dirk cascading over the bumps and off the runoff area. It doesn't cost him any real time or positions, of course, with Volkongen 4/10 off the back of the Ferrari. Does he sense maybe a weakness? Does he smell blood for the Scarlet Ferrari in front of him? We'll have to wait and see as the DRS laps close down into the braking zone of 22.
So we now going into the final corner between Owen and Tony, and is this going to be a chance for Tony to finally take the lead? Owen is not going to have any DRS, but again he seems to have an unmatched pace going down the stretches, and will hold on to the lead for now. But I don't think Brando's going to be so lucky. Is this a move in the inside? It is. From Ryder Dahl, and that is a great move if it has stick, and it has. Great move from Ryder Dahl, his ET8 stablemate being, of course, the victim of that move, and down to 8th place. Ryder Dahl now into 7th.
We're just seeing the effect now of the tyre offset. Ryderdale making moves very nicely through the field up into P7, make that a net P6 with the 10-second penalty that Lawrence has got. And with the pace that Red Bull has in his back pocket, do not be surprised if he gets ahead of Yasir Saki very shortly as well. It's going to be interesting to see what Dirk can manage as well, getting past Lafferty on the previous lap. Now got his teammate firmly in his sights, and those Ferraris could be trading blows in the battle for 8th and 9th very shortly. Ryderdale just has so much confidence clearly in that Red Bull racing car. It's only 2-lap difference, the tyre offset that he's got over the Mercedes, 3 laps over the Ferrari behind him, and then a further 2 laps over Yasir Saki, 5, and 6 respectively. But he just looks to have that little bit more grip and that little bit more confidence, in particular on the turning.
Yes, that's right. Oh, look at this. There's a real battle happening there between Yasir Saki, Lawrence, Ryderdale. It could be 4 if Randall gets involved. Lafitti's lost another position. Ryderdale is getting very close to Lawrence. Oh, what's happened?
Oh, Lafferty just running into the back of Volokongan and losing a position, then losing the back end of his car. But you're talking about Ryderdale closing up on the back of the Mercedes of Lawrence. We could potentially be 3 wide. To the middle goes Lawrence to try and go defensive. Ryderdale's made to go the long way round, but staunch in his defence is the Mercedes. The Silver Arrow holding on, but that's a mistake from Yasir Saki. Lights up the rear tyres. Please and thank yous as Lawrence finds himself up the inside and finds himself almost stumbling into position number 5.
Oh!
Now he makes a mistake over the curves. People clearly cannot control the rear end of these Formula 1 cars. Ryderdale saying, come on, get on with it. I want to get to position number 5. Mistakes apiece for the 2 drivers in front, but he's still bulked in position number 7 for the time being.
Yasir Saki had a horrendous corner. He got penalised for corner cutting, and then he lost the position to Lawrence. You can see he's really struggling on these 6-lap old hard tyres already. There's not as much grip as there was before, and Ryderdale can sense weakness in Yasir Saki, and rightly so. So now he's going to try and make the move into 6th place. Lawrence has already done that, but he's got 5.5 seconds to make up to Oscar, and that is a mountain of a challenge. So we come through to the chicane once again, and then out to this giant loop, and it looks like an opportunity for Ryderdale has now opened up, and it's going to be plain sailing for the Red Bull driver, going to the inside perhaps of this Aston Martin, and there it is, and there's a yellow flag for Zinedine. He has seemingly stopped, and the 2 Ferraris are now going to switch positions as well. Ryderdale up in 6th place, and his next opponent will be Lawrence. Looks like Haddad had another incident. He's lost a bit of his wing, so we have to pit. What's happened?
It's the Ferraris into the back of one another. Clearly, people struggling to keep their hands off themselves. It's a mistake from Dirk as well through turn number 2. Surely Brando isn't going to think about the move up the inside. No, he most certainly isn't. But yeah, it was rinse and repeat. Ryderdale up the inside of Yasir Saki into the final corner. Dirk did the same on Brando, but then Brando just running into the back of his team. It may be caught short by how early he was braking. We've got a Mercedes, like you said, of Zinedine now getting out of the way after that little bit of a whoopsie that he had. Volokong was also very close to the back of Dirk as they were coming through the middle section. You can see him stopped on circuit. Very sporting of Zinedine to get out of the way of everybody. He hasn't had his most complete race, it has to be said. But now the faster drivers are starting to pull their way through. Ryderdale up to P6. He's only got Lawrence now before he can try and chase after that leading group of 4. And Dirk making moves as well. Yeah, and Finland's got a penalty as well. Zinedine got damage out of the second corner, and that's why the damage was there. It wasn't off Lawrence's car, so don't worry, fans of Lawrence. He's still in a fighting chance. He's lost both his end plates, has Zinedine, so he had no choice but to let them through. There'd be absolutely no point of fighting off. He's getting lapped anyway, but here is Ryderdale going for a move on Lawrence. He's saving it for the next corner, and that's going to bring Yasir Saki back into play, even if the troubles he's had, and now he's got big trouble because he's made a mistake at the final corner, and now the 2 Ferraris are going to be challenging his position. But we look at Ryderdale, there should be a move for 5th place into the inside, but Lawrence ain't going to give up without a fight. And the Ferrari, if Dirk is going to go into the inside of Yasir Saki, he will not give that up either. Oh, he's nearly getting into the wall. He nearly goes into the wall, does Dirk. And Yasir Saki's going to keep holding on to his position. He's pushed off the track. He had nowhere else to go. 2 do not go into 1 there, with that inside wall being a deterrent, perhaps. And Dirk is into 7th place. And Zinedine's went on intermediates. Interesting.
I don't know what's going on. It's not raining, folks. This is Jeddah. It never rains. in Jeddah. It doesn't pour either.
Well, it did actually rain in F2 qualifying, if people saw that. That was a very interesting one. But yes, Saki having absolutely none of it. Eventually, Dirk muscling his way through, and Rydal doing the same down into turn number 1, getting ahead of Lawrence. He can now try and scamper off into the distance, try and break the DRS to Lawrence behind. Lawrence will be hoping that he can maybe get dragged along, hope the DRS train splits up behind him, and maybe he can pull 10 seconds on some of the stragglers towards the back end of that DRS train. But you fear that that's going to be ever so slightly unlikely. It is, though, 1.2 seconds between Lawrence and Dirk, so a bit of work for the Ferrari to do to get back into the 1 second window of the pair in front. But the top 4 are still keeping it very, very calm and orderly. Asm is 8/10 off the back of Tony Richet. Brando losing yet more places. It's Kazizel now at the inside into the final corner, and outside of the top 10 goes the Ferrari, albeit only for the time being, because he's got an opportunity to try and get it back into turn number 1, but there's also penalties for the drivers in front. Yasser Saki battling away with Dirk. He wants this place back around the outside, turns to the inside defensively for Dirk. They're still neck and neck. It's deja vu from the previous lap. On the last lap, it was Yasser Saki on the outside of 4 that went off the circuit. This time, he has the overtake, 1 and done, and Dirk pushed back down into position number 8. That is not good news for his charge towards Rydal.
Yep, deja vu. He's been in this place before, but this time he's lost position to Yasser Saki, and he'll have to try and get it back. Yeah, but I not know why he's going on intermediate tyres. I think he's just
Given up.
He's messing about, it seems. Put it lightly. And he's got another 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Maybe he's doing the rainbow tyre challenge. If these are the wet tyres that go on, then he has completed the achievement there. Volokonga, though, is very close to the back of Dirk, by the way, in the battle for 8th and 9th. And Dirk is going to be sick to the back teeth of the sight of Mercedes engine cars, because he's got a Papaya McLaren now very menacingly in the rearview mirrors of the Scarlet Red Ferrari car. Don't discount Kazizel as well, despite the penalty looming over the head of the Haas driver. Looking very, very racing. Dirk, I think, is going to be leaking potentially more time and potentially more positions. What are we going to see around the outside? Dirk, from defence to attack, he's going to have to launch it around the outside. Rockets past the Aston Martin of Yasser Saki, and that is 7th place back for the Ferrari. Volokongan says thank you very much and follows in the footsteps of his rival in front, and now it could be Papaya McLaren coming out on top. We're going to be 3 wide as Yasser Saki looks for space. He darts to the inside. Who's going to be braver? Can Volokongan see the Aston Martin on the inside? There's a little bit of rubbing between the 3 drivers. Yasser Saki still trying to put the front wing of that Aston Martin in a place it's not particularly welcome, but it's Volokongan that takes it into position number 7. Dirk holding 8th place. He lost 1, he then gained it back, but it's Yasser Saki the big loser on the older tyres, and with a 3-second penalty, pushed down into position number 9, and with Kazizel hot on the scene also.
My word, Volokongan, the big winner in that war between him, Dirk, and Yasser Saki. And now Kazizel and the gang are going to be making their way. Unfortunately, Lethal Bizzle is not part of that group. But now he's right behind Yasser Saki, and is going to try and take away his 9th place he currently holds. And considering that they're on much younger tyres, do not make that a difficult challenge at all, because it is, of course, Yasser Saki has been struggling, and Kazizel is going to be trying to find some moves, but he's also got DRS off Dirk. He's going to try and get his revenge, and I don't know why Zinedine is continuing on here. And we've got to move for 3rd.
Yes, it's Asm really struggling to cling onto the coattails of the leading duo. They've dropped out of the DRS range, and for Oscar, alarm bells going off as he sees his opportunity to potentially win this race just falling by the wayside. We've got 5 to go, everybody. It's now an exclusive battle between Owen and Tony Richet, if Owen can't try and catch up to the back of them again.
Yeah, so it's Owen and Tony going at each other's heads, it will be seeming like, when we head into the final few laps, because of course, unless there's a safety car, my goodness, what happens if there's a safety car? Rydal gets launched into the battle, and we wouldn't want to see that if you're Owen, Tony, Oscar, or Asm, because that means your podium will be at risk. And I think Zinedine's gone on wet now. I mean,
Rainbow challenge completed.
Oh dear.
Well done to him. He's realised his race has gone to pot, so he's trying to get all the tyre compounds on before he ends his day slightly early. Oscar has just about got back into the DRS range, and Azam's the one that is really struggling. Do we see the rear wing flap open at the back of the Papaya McLaren car? The answer is yes, as we just about go over the DRS line. It's Azam that's now a second back, and I think it could be a 3-car scrap because Azam clearly doesn't quite have the pace of the 3 cars in front. Maybe he's struggling with tyre temperatures, having sat very close to the back of Tony Roche for the last 7 or 8 laps. That's potentially what's holding Dirk back as well, because Volokongen absolutely rocketed past the Ferrari, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's a collision! It's Kazuzo and Yasusaki out of the final corner, and now they're locking wheels as well, going down the stretch. And Yasusaki's going to try and hold that position. He is, or is he? Yes, he is. It looks like Kazuzo's backed out the last minute. Is there any damage? Not that I know of, so they're lucky, but that could have been catastrophic if that went any differently. Owen and Tony are getting very close to each other now. Ryderdal, though, has now cut the gap between him and the leader to 6 seconds. It was 7, now it's 6.
I think he's going to run out of laps, though. He's got that 2-lap offset on those hard compound tyres. His pace is very, very strong, but with only 4 laps to go in this Grand Prix, he's got to be, well, probably 2 seconds a lap fast, because he's going to have to catch the back of that 4 in front and then overtake them, which is not going to be very easy at all. Volokongen has been reeled in again by Dirk. They're 3 seconds off the back of Lawrence, whose 10-second penalty is really going to come back to bite him in the behind, and Dirk still scrapping away to try and finish in P6. Feels like Dirk's been in every position from 5th down into 12th in this second stint of the Grand Prix, but he's stemmed the flow as Yasusaki's tyres start to degrade, and he drops off the back of the Papaya McLaren, and the Scarlet Red Ferrari dueling once again over 7th and 8th with no DRS for the McLaren in front. You would imagine this is going to be very, very straightforward for Dirk as he just homes into view. Will he go for the move into the final corner? The answer is no. He's going to wait for the DRS, the second bite of the cherry down into turn number 1. They're still 2 seconds off the back of Lawrence, who isn't particularly quick at this stage, so there is an opportunity maybe if Volokongen can hold this place to get into the DRS of the Mercedes, but I think he's going to be slightly short on that outcome because Dirk is going to roar around the outside, doesn't even need the braking zone, and that is very, very easy to get back up into 7th position. They've got the same ace tyres. Can they work together to try and pick up any more places, maybe pick up the pieces if something catastrophic happens in front with just 3 laps to go?
So it looks like 3 laps to go, and Ryderdal's still trying to pick up the pace. He needs to perform quali laps pretty much, but I don't think he's going to get there in time. Still, 5th place from what was a 13th place start is pretty good going in my book. So props to him on his performance today. He has just been fantastic in terms of overtaking, in terms of pace. It's just been brilliant, and I'd probably get my driver today vote. But the battle for the victory is still well on. Owen is keeping his distance from Tony, as he should, to try and win the race. But Tony, that was a great corner by Tony. I don't think Owen had a great chicane out there. And now he's closed up to about 4 tenths. And this could be an opportunity to take the position away. The quarter of a second separating him. Is there going to be a move from Tony Ritchie? We're going to have 2 laps left as they cross the line. And now it's starting to get really close. Oscar's getting closer too.
When is it go time? When does Tony Roche pull the punch that tries to win him this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? Owen finished 3rd a week ago. He could end up 2nd, but he could end up 2 places ahead of his result from 7 days ago and pick up a win that is very well deserved after an excellent qualifying lap. He held the lead down to turn number 1, was not troubled by any of the drivers behind, and has not looked back since. But Tony Roche has consistently been trying his hardest to put this Alpine under the cosh and push him into a mistake. Who's hit the wall? I think, is it Azam?
Tony scraped the wall into the turn and now has lost time from Owen. He's still half a second, but he could have had much more time if he didn't just scrape the wall.
I don't think it's affected him too much, though.
No, don't think it has. Zinedine is still doing pit stops. He's speeding in the pit lane. He's probably accumulated 3 minutes of penalties now. I'm surprised he's not disqualified yet.
26 is the number, I've just checked.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. Oh yeah, because he loses 10 seconds because he gets the pit lane. But now Tony Rich is even closer. He's got way more battery. Well, he did for a moment, but now he's using a lot of it. Is he trying to get past now? That looked like could be the case.
Owen
He's giving
hovering.
everything he has.
Yeah, just holding it in the middle of the circuit. He was just a little bit wary of Tony Richet. What was he going to do? He was a little bit undecided. He's got another opportunity. It's the last lap of the race, folks. Which way is Owen going to go? Which way is Tony Richet going to go? He has to brake later around the outside, but it's Owen who's braver on the brakes, tries to cut back to the RB, but there is no way past. It's the widest Alpine in the universe at the moment. Owen holds on. Ministry of Defence stays in the lead of the race for the time being. Oscar is a very willing spectator. He clouds the inside barrier at turn number 4. No damage, I think, for the RB car, but it's from attack to defence because Oscar is still right there in the fray.
Owen defending like a lion, as a certain Fernando Alonso would say. Now, or was it? Oh, I can't remember. But now I think Tony may have just had his biggest chance snatched away from him. There's still half the track to go. This is one of the DRS zones coming up. Not this one, then one after this. Still trying to hold on as Owen. He's done it for 25 laps, but is it going to fall at the final hurdle? Tony Richet will decide the result. Coming even closer, you got Oscar behind him as well. As and further behind, he's going to be an interesting spectator right now. What's happened?
He's got all out of shape over the curbs, and from trying to win this race, he might not even finish in second. It's a big, big blunder through turn 22. He was all over the curbs. He was all out of shape. Oscar now having to launch it around the outside. Can he find the space? Can he dance and tango past the RB? They're into the barrier. The space wasn't left, and it allows Owen to jump off into the distance. Ecstasy for Alpine. It's an Owen victory in Saudi Arabia, and on the line, on the button, it's Owen by a 1/10 of a second. That does get past Tony Richet. The stewards will definitely have a look at what happened into the final corner, because they were side by side, and Tony Richet looked like maybe didn't leave the space for the McLaren, who was trying his hardest to get ahead. But it was a big, big error from Tony Richet through turn 22. He got all out of shape. He got all crossed up. And that allowed Owen to calmly negotiate turn 27 for the last time and cruise across the line to pick up his first win of the season.
Yeah, and Tony Richet will be bitterly disappointed. I don't know what happened at the line there. It looked like he wanted to give the position back. But no, that is him finishing in third place. Oscar snatching second place at the line could be crucial. Ryderdal went from 13th to 5th. Lawrence went from 3rd to out at the points in 11th.
Sasaki didn't have a great day either, starting from P4, I believe it was, the Aston Martin. Yeah, so Lawrence from 3rd down to 11th with that 10-second penalty. Sasaki from 4th down to 6th. They didn't quite have the race pace to match the quali pace they showed.
Oh, absolutely not. My word. What a day to be Owen. He led the whole race and he never got overtaken. Wins it wire to wire.
Very, very impressive. We wait for Zinedine, who's doing donuts. Some of us have places to be, lads, so if we can get a shift on, that would be absolutely lovely. Migrating host, that is slightly worrying, so I'm just going to take a screenshot. No, I can't take a screenshot because it brings up the pause menu. Thank you very much for that one. Zinedine does get over the line in position number 16. 16th, he'll be saying, but it wasn't quite his day, unfortunately, for Zinedine. But we'll see the podium celebrations, and it is Enstone triumphant. It is an Alpine victory at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. The phone is out. We're absolutely loving it. Papaya McLaren is second place, and then Tony Richet was second for the whole of the Grand Prix, but losing it at the end. Race winner goes to Owen. Fastest lap for Zinedine. Drive for the day and most overtakes, I think, fittingly goes to Ryderdal, battling very hard. And Brando with the cleanest driver. Tony Richet, like I said, finishing off the podium, as and with a strong performance to come home in P4, ahead of Ryderdal from 13th to 5th. Volakongan 11th to 6th, just ahead of Dirk, who stayed in P7. Kazizel, Brando, and Yassis Saki rounding out your provisional point scorers. Lawrence just missing out, head of Marius Formula, who was involved in a kerfuffle with Lafferty about halfway through the race. Nico Source disconnected early on. Finlay couldn't quite match the pace that he had a week ago. And Zinedine rounding out your classified finishers.
Yeah, so big day if you're Owen. Also big day for Ryderdal, as I mentioned. See, Alpine, this is how you treat your drivers. Owen wins the race in an Alpine, and deservingly so. He owned that race pretty much. Sorry. And Yeah, brilliant result from Owen. You didn't need the luck of the Irish for this one.
He did not, no.
Very well done from him.
I'm just trying to see if anybody wants to have a bit of a chat, a bit of a natter. So let's get them in. Nobody said yes last week, so I imagine everybody's going to turn us down once again. But you don't get if you don't ask. We put the message out there, so we're going to see. But what a race. It took a little bit of time to catch fire, didn't it? But right at the end, we had quite a lot of action. The midfield were battling very, very hard. The tyre offset, the strategy just gave us an opportunity to see the overtaking, see drivers having to be really punchy and work really hard for their overtakes, and that was lovely to see. And it was Tony Richet. He looked like he was going to have an opportunity to take it down into the final corner. Well, he had to defend, and he couldn't quite defend hard enough because he did get mugged. He was pocket pinched, wasn't he, by Owen right at the end. There was a bit of contact. The stewards will most likely have a look at that. But Logan, just to get your thoughts on the race, brilliant drive from Owen. He was absolutely bulletproof.
Oh, absolutely a brilliant drive from Owen all race. He didn't seem to have put a foot wrong. Tony was a great challenger. Unfortunately, it all fell apart at the end, which was quite unfortunate. But that's what can happen sometimes. You can be right up there fighting for victory, but at the same time, if you make one mistake, it can ruin your entire race. So very unfortunate for Tony. Still finishes third though. A great result.
Yeah, I think he'll probably feel like he missed a trick. Maybe it was just a mistake. It's very easy to do when you're pushing so hard on that final lap, trying to chase down the victory and just getting maybe a little bit ambitious and overexerting himself over those curves, which can be very slippery, of course. But doesn't look like anybody's going to have a chat with us and a bit of a chinwag, so that is a shame. But what we are going to do is we looked at it earlier on, but we're just going to fill you in on the calendar. We've got one more week before we break off for our effective summer break, the first break that we'll have this season. It is Spa-Francorchamps next week. I'm very much looking forward to that one. Then we return on the 4th of August for PlayStation F1. The PC split will be a couple of days before that, of course, and it's a back-to-back of legendary circuits, Imola and Silverstone. Hungary following it up. That's going to be a bit of a sweat fest. Bahrain, the newly remodelled Bahrain, how the drivers will acclimatise to that will be fascinating. Then we break off and have a 5-week stretch to finish off season number 40. Texas, Japan, Vegas, Brazil, and Mexico to round us out. Take us all the way to the 6th of October.
Going to be exciting season, and of course we've also got PC F1 returning after nearly a year away, and the top drivers in the world, we're talking your Jarno Opmeers, your Lucas Blakeleys, your Thomas Ronors, they're all going to be back and racing in the pinnacle of F1 esports, besides F1 Sim Racing Championship itself, of course. It's I know people treat it as like, warm up, gives you a feel of what you're going to be up against, but for PSGL people like me, it is the pinnacle of sim racing on the Formula 1 video games. I cannot wait for it. I am so excited when it is about to start, and that will be very, very soon.
100%. And you've got a couple of legends that will be taking charge of the commentary box. TK Tom Knight, you know him, you love him. And, of course, George Morgan as well. Two absolute goats of the scene. Hopefully you are looking forward to that one. That is just about going to round us off, confirming that nobody wants to have a chat. They're so anti-social. I mean, we're probably the last people that some slightly sweaty and slightly grumpy F1 drivers want to speak to. But Logan, on the old social medias, where can people find you if they want to check you out after this commentary stint?
You can check me out on my YouTube channel. It's just called Otaku Logan. I've done some interesting videos, some of them PSGL, some of them others. But if you're a random guy like me, go check them out. It's pretty fun.
100%. Definitely get involved in that. There are some great clips that you posted on the last game of some very interesting occurrences in our PSGL escapades. If you want to check out what I'm doing on Twitter, it is at TW06. On TikTok, it is wilco.darts. There's also a wilco.coms channel coming very, very shortly as well. So I'd appreciate a follow on that. But thank you, everybody, for watching. It is an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you, Logan, for jumping in alongside me in the virtual commentary box. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up in the very near future as well. But thank you everybody for watching. We will see you in 7 days time for Spa-Francorchamps. It should be another absolute classic. Alex Lofer should be back, and that should make the championship even spicier than it already is. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week as PC F1 returns. Until next time, from myself, Tom, and from Logan, we will see you very, very soon. Goodbye.